Well, I'm Steve Sharp. I'm the R3 coordinator for the National Wild Turkey Federation, and R3 stands for Hunter Recruitment, Retention, and Reactivation Coordinator. And some of the things that we are doing is trying to introduce more and more people out into the field of hunting. Hunting numbers have been declining over the last few years, and since 1980 we see our deer hunter numbers decline from over 1 million deer hunters down to 750,000, and that's a staggering rate, because what that means is that there's less revenue that is going into what they call the Pittman-Robertson Fund, which is a 11% excise tax that is applied to hunting equipment, which is firearms, ammunition, that is applied to at the manufacturer's level. And if we have fewer hunters out there, there's fewer sales of firearms and ammunition that goes into the hunting field, and that relates into conservation efforts. And in order to produce more wildlife and more restoration efforts for wildlife, we have to have those funds, so those numbers decline. So we have developed this Learn to Hunt program, and it is pretty much for people like my brother Doug. My brother has never hunted before, and just recently retired, and never had much of a support group other than myself that has offered the chance to get out and try out hunting. We find that a lot of the people that don't have the support group don't take up hunting, and so that's a problem that we see, and something that we're trying to fix.
In years past, Steve, things were a little bit different. A lot of people lived off the land and had to hunt in order to provide for their family. And nowadays we're used to going to the supermarket and buying our meat off the shelf at Kroger's, and we don't have any experience with actually going out into the wild and figuring out how to actually capture wild game. And so this for me was a different experience. That I can't say that I had ever had a lot of interest in it. I was more of a state parks guy. I like the I haven't fished in a long time either, and I'm going to start doing that too. It's something that now that I'm retired, I have a little bit more time for, and I'll be able to devote some time towards doing more recreation, and instead of sitting behind a desk, which is not necessarily the most healthy thing for you. And so getting out in the woods, and the one thing I noticed about when we went out was the beautiful smells. I guess a honeysuckle that was blooming at this time. This is a spring turkey hunt, and so this is early May, and today we're having a beautiful day. It's getting in the 80s. So, well, Steve, show us some of your turkey calls, some of the things that you use to do your turkey hunting.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and suit up and kind of go through some of the stuff that I need to use. Doug is sitting in one of our seats. It's got a nice foam padded seat, and one thing that we have to know is that the wild turkeys, their eyesight is 10 times greater than man. Their hearing is 8 times greater than man. They can run about 18 miles an hour, and they can fly about 55 miles an hour. So the best way of hunting turkeys is to get completely camouflaged from head to toe. Now I'm sitting in a chair, but typically when we're out hunting, we would sit in a chair like what Doug is sitting in right now, or on a seat on the ground with our back up against a tree to help break up our outline. I would usually find something like that, the setting, and so we can break up our outline. But there's a lot of equipment that goes in. First off, your firearm. We went out earlier on Friday, and we patterned our shotguns, find out where our shotguns are shooting. A lot of different shotguns and a lot of different shot shells that are out there. They all pattern differently. So it's better to shoot your shotgun, know the capabilities, know the effective range of what those firearms are, and that way you are very well equipped to go into the woods and harvest a turkey ethically and legally. So it's really a good thing. A couple other things that I use. When you get into a hunting situation, a lot of times you might need a set of clippers here. You find some branches or something that might be in your way when you're trying to move your gun or stuff, you can clip these off at the base, and even if it's a leafy branch of autumn olive or whatever, you can stick it back in the ground to help break up your outline a little bit. So pair of cutters are nice.
Cut some poison ivy out of my way here.
Yeah, there was some poison ivy in the way there. We happened to move that out of the way so we aren't having to mess with those with that, and it keeps your hands free from getting poison ivy on it. Another thing, being comfortable is very, very important. Having a nice comfortable seat, something it gives you a backrest so you can get up against the tree, but feel very comfortable, because if you're not comfortable, you're fidgeting. And if you're fidgeting, you're not going to get turkeys to come in, because they're going to come in, they're going to peek their head up over the top of the hill, and more than likely that turkey's going to see you well before you see them. And a lot of times you may not even know that he was there, and you have spooked them out of the territory. And so being comfortable, so you're not fidgeting, is very important. Another thing to help you keep them from fidgeting is what they call a thermocell. This is a great tool to have in the woods when you're a turkey hunter, because you click that baby on, and it's got a butane bottle in there that has a little fluid in there that lights up, and it gives off a little gas to it. It's pretty much an odorless gas. There might be a slight odor to it, but it doesn't seem to bother game. And the neat thing about it is that it keeps the mosquitoes away. And if you're swatting mosquitoes and doing this all the time, you're not going to get any turkeys to come into your location. So it is very important to be comfortable that way. One of the things too that is very important is, as I say, their eyesight is 10 times greater than man. So camouflage from head to toe is very important. I have a head net that I put on, and this is one that's made by Quaker Boy. That is a 3/4 bandito head net. That is kind of a nice little head net there, and it has a wire that forms around to your face, so you can put a bend in it so it forms to your nose. My brother wears glasses. You can form that wire so it fits underneath your glasses, so when you're on a cold morning, if you're breathing inside that it doesn't go up and fog up your glasses. And it kind of helps out, so you still have good peripheral vision, but it covers up your face and it covers up a lot of your movement. Another thing that's moving a lot when you're in the woods is your hands. So a pair of gloves is very important. If you have camouflage gloves that you're putting on, that helps you kind of cut down the whiteness of your hands, so you don't see that. And sitting out in the direct sunlight, I usually try to pick some shadows that I sit in, so that also subdues your movements, because sometimes you have to move somewhat, especially if you're calling with a slate call or a box call. There is some movement involved with that, so the more that you can keep in those low light levels, they work out all the better. I always carry like a little carrying strap with me when I go out in the woods too. So when you do harvest a turkey, you can wrap it around their legs and you can kind of carry it out of the woods very easily. A lot of your turkey vests will also have a game pouch in the back, and you can put your turkey in that game pouch and carry your turkey out of the woods that way. So that's a good thing to utilize there. When we get into turkey calls, there's a lot of different turkey calls that are out there. First off, one of my favorite calls is a glass call. This is one of the pot call designs here, and it's got a glass surface, and you rough the surface up with either sandpaper or emery cloth or whatever, and you keep both the surfaces dry. And you don't want to touch the surfaces with your fingers because you can get oils on that. that will kind of help it miscue if you have oils on the surfaces. But basically all you're doing is kind of putting your striker on the call, pointing it at a 45-degree angle, and you draw a little circle about the size of a quarter on there. And that's a great call there to use. That's the yelp of a hen turkey. That's a mating call that they use. Well, they use it all year round as either locating, but usually during the spring of the year, it's mating season. So when you're yelping like a hen, you're attracting the gobblers, and the gobblers will gobble back to that. And the reason the turkeys are gobbling is because they're trying to attract the hens. So you're reversing nature a little bit, because it's usually more natural for the hen to go to the gobbler than the gobbler to go to the hen. So you got to kind of reverse nature and try to call them into you. You got to sound like a hen that's wanting to get bred at that time. So another thing that you can do with this is just by holding the striker onto the slate itself or on the glass and pulling it towards you just slightly to make a cluck. And clucks are just a contentment call that they're doing. Hey, I'm over here. This is just kind of a social call there. Also, another thing that you can do is cutting, which is more clucks, faster, more intense, and that's an excited call of a hen turkey. And that is another thing that gets a hen excited. A lot of times when the birds are not acting too much, they calm down. Well, a lot of times you might need to do some more contentment calls, something that's good for them in the woods, just kind of like a little purr. That little purr is a nice call to have out in the woods, just to make sure everything's okay. It sounds good. It's basically, you know, hey, everything's nice over in this neck of the woods here. You ought to try the grasshoppers. They're great over here. You ought to try the acorns or the beech nuts. You know, it's just a contentment call in the woods. So they're just kind of purring and clucking and going along there. But 90% of the time, most of the calls you're going to use is going to be the yelp of the hen. Great call to use out in the woods. That's the slate call. Another call that you would use is a box call. Box calls, I called in my first turkey with a box call. And these are great calls to use out in the woods for a hen, to make the hen call. The hen yelp is just... Also, another thing to do a cluck, all you're doing is putting your thumb on the paddle. You're not putting any pressure on the paddle at all. You're just putting enough pressure on there to stop the paddle, and you just tap it. That's a cluck of a hen turkey. And then cutting, just more of the same. Another way that you can cut on it is to reverse it around and just... It's a great call to use in the woods. One of the things that I find though is that when you're using friction type calls, there's a lot of movement involved. So you can't be calling when you have that turkey that's on its way in, and he might be looking or might be just scraping his head over the top of the hill. So a lot of times air operated call is the best to use, and this is called a diaphragm call. There's a lot of different calls that you can use out there, but the diaphragm call is nice thing about it is that it gives you your hands free. You don't have the you don't have any movement whatsoever. You put it in the roof of your mouth, you create a seal across the roof of your mouth with the tape, and the tongue goes right on the reed like this right here. So you You can do clucks and purrs on it also, and just by popping your mouth to do a cluck, it's got a. And then to do a purr, I do a throat purr. A lot of times people vibrate their lips together to purr. I do a throat purr. It's more difficult to learn how to do it than some of the calls, but with a little bit of practice you can do that. I mean, it's Another thing you can do is what they call a fighting purr. I typically do this with 2 calls. I do a diaphragm call and I do a slate call at the same time. And you do the fighting purrs, and it's more of a challenge call. It's, they're all going through a pecking order at that time of year, trying to establish those pecking orders, and when they fight, it seems to draw attraction to a lot of turkeys, and they all seem to want to come in at the same time. Those fighting purrs a lot of times will give you that challenging call that brings in those gobblers, and sometimes it works and sometimes it don't. Not everything works 100% of the time, and that's what turkey hunting is all about. Another thing that's very useful is decoys. This is an Avian X decoy that we have right here. That's kind of a nice decoy. This is a strutting turkey. They also have them in hens, but they're very realistic looking. That's the neat thing about these here is that they're painted up nice. They kind of have the correct coloration and sheen to them like a gobbler would have out in the woods, and it's very realistic. So when those turkeys come into it, they actually come right up to it really close and try to attack it. And I have had that happen before where they've actually grabbed a hold of the snood on my decoy and tried to fight with it there. And you could actually add even more realism to it just by putting a real turkey fan in the tail of this. I happen to have one in my vest that I carry along with me, and it adds to the realism. As soon as I get it stuck in there, just like that there, and the wind blowing in that fan really adds a lot of realism to your setting out there, and the turkeys just seem to want to come into that really good. I use a lot of the gobbler decoys are very good because it seems like the first thing the gobblers are going to come to will be a gobbler decoy to run that one off, because he's in his territory and he is trying to mess with his hens, you know, so gobbler decoy is really good. Also, another thing that you can do to add to the realism on a decoy is I've got a decoy here that I've actually skinned out a hen decoy that I had in the fall, that I shot in the fall, and we skinned it out and stretched it over an old decoy that I had laying around. And you talk about something that looks very real out in the woods. You set that out there with that with those real feathers on there, and it just really adds the realism to it in your setting there. So these are all some great things.
You got a gobbler call too, don't you?
Oh yes, you do. In fact, I had it here a second ago. One of the things that you can do is you can challenge them with a gobble. What I've done here is I made a pill bottle into a turkey call. I've taken a pill bottle and I drilled holes in the bottom all the way around. And then I took the top, I cut across the top and made a half moon shaped cut in the top of that pill bottle. Then I stretched the rubber latex over the top of that to create the reed. and you put your lower lip right on the reed, the gap there, and you put your upper lip over the top of the reed, and you can make a gobble out of it just by doing like a feed chuckle on a duck call. And that makes a good gobble. And once again, that's a challenge call that you would do out in the woods. It's a challenge call that would bring in these turkeys. But you also remember, you're reproducing a sound that other people out there are trying to shoot. So it's not a good thing to gobble in the public lands as much as possible. You know, you might do a couple of them there, but you might be attracting somebody to your setting because you are gobbling. Some people out there that are hunting may hear that gobble and come in and actually stalk up onto your position. You never want to stalk a turkey. You know, it's too hard. There's a lot of people that seem to be out there doing all sorts of techniques. So some of them they call reaping. They take a turkey fan, they hide behind it, and they go behind this turkey fan and try to get up there closer to these turkeys. It's a very effective way to get turkeys into it, but it's also a very effective way of getting yourself shot. It's a very dangerous situation there, and I don't recommend it whatsoever. This is a technique that seems to have gotten a lot of publicity recently, and it's also a technique that could be very dangerous. And we've had a very good record over the years for having a very safe sport. It is basically because a lot of the organizations like the National Wild Turkey Federation and the DNR, we've worked cooperatively together to help create a very safe environment when you're out hunting. And we've had very, very, very few hunting accidents. And it was earlier in the stages of turkey hunting that they thought that turkey hunting was very dangerous because, you know, you're out in the woods, you're sounding like a turkey, you're fully camouflaged so people can't see you, and they mistake you for a turkey, and people get shot. But because of education and the process that we've gone through hunters' workshops, we have not had the situations in the state of Michigan, and we like to keep it that way. So think safely when you're out there hunting. You want to make sure you identify your target when that turkey's coming in. Make sure that it's not another hunter going through the woods. Could be a mushroom picker. It's got a red, white, and blue hat. Colors on a turkey's head is red, white, and blue, like this right here. And as that turkey's coming in, you know, that's sometimes the first thing you see on a turkey, a red, white, and blue head. And sometimes it might be a mushroom picker with a red, white, and blue hat, peeping his head up over the top of the hill, wondering what that sound is coming from. And that's a good way that people can get shot. So education is very important in the process that we're doing.
You got to see a beard too, right?
And you do have to see a beard. You have to have a bearded turkey, which is this one right, like this right here. A lot of my decoys, I actually pluck the beard off of it. It doesn't do anything to attract the tom or whatever. I pluck the beard off of it, so when people look at it, at least it's an illegal target, you know, because you have to shoot a bearded turkey in the spring of the year. And so that beard is the thing that you would look for. Red, white, and blue head. Benjamin Franklin wanted the wild turkey to be the national bird at one time because of the red, white, and blue head and his majestic mating stance that he has. It's been really a majestic creature there. So it's the wild turkey is an exceptional animal and a lot of fun to hunt.
So what are some of the misconceptions that people might have about turkey hunting and why people may not do any turkey hunting? And you know, I can maybe speak a little bit from my point of view, and I just didn't see the interest, and you know, frankly, the gun is a little bit intimidating, and I think this hunt that I've been on sort of took that out of me. You know, at least it's something that now that I've experienced it, I can see how it actually works, and the mystery is a little bit lessened for me now.
This is kind of neat. That's some of the things is we need to break down those barriers, the barriers that people have, the misconceptions of, you know, what turkey hunting is about. So it could be intimidating quite a bit at times. You know, do I have the right things? Do I know where to hunt? How to hunt? I don't know how to hunt. I don't have the support group, and that's one of the things with our Learn to Hunt programs. is that we provide that support group to take you out and show you the ropes. You can sit in a lot of classrooms and see a lot of video slides and stuff like that, but you cannot teach them what to look for in the woods, you know. We go out, we take the people out and show them turkey signs, we show them turkey scratchings, we show them droppings, you know, where the hens and the gobblers, we can show them the difference between a hen and a gobbler just by the shape, you know. The gobbler's got a J-shaped turkey dropping, and the hens are more of a popcorn type of dropping there. And if you're hunting in the fall of the year, you got to identify, you know, if you're hunting gobbler groups or if you're hunting hens. So it's more important to know those differences, you know, so if you're hunting those situations. But also some of the other problems that you have is having a place to hunt, knowing where to hunt. And we provide some of that information. There is so many opportunities out there. Our public lands, we are truly blessed in the state of Michigan, because 24% of the land mass in the state of Michigan is on public hunting grounds. So you can hunt in a lot of different areas in Michigan. We have a lot of hunters access programs, which is private land that is leased out by the state of Michigan and gives them a tax break to allow hunting to be on their property. So it's and we show people how to access that. There is a website on the Michigan DNR page. It's called myhunt.com, and you go to myhunt, MI-HUNT, and you click on that, and it will bring up maps of your state game areas. Shows you all the public lands where you can hunt, and it also gives you, it will give you aerial photos of those areas. You can also click on it, get topo maps of that area, and it also gives you a map of cover types of those areas. So if you're looking for oaks, it'll tell you where the oaks are. If you're looking for pine trees or conifers, it'll tell you where those are. It'll tell you where the swamps are. It'll tell you where the waterways are, and it'll tell you where the little openings and grasslands are. There's been times that I've even gone to those maps and looked down there, and from the aerial photo, I could see where dusting bowls would be. And I went to those areas, and sure enough, there was dusting bowls there. So you can do a lot of your work from the computer just by looking at those maps.
So Steve, what is a dusting bowl?
Dusting bowl, that's kind of where a hen or a gobbler, they come and they dig up the dirt, they fluff up the dirt and into their feathers. They're trying to get rid of any types of parasites that might be on them. It's taking a dirt bath is basically what they do, and basically all birds do it. And you'll see birds taking a bird bath in your bird bath. You know, turkeys do the same thing in water, but they use dusting areas to get rid of some of the parasites that they have on their bodies and this stuff. So they go to them frequently in the early afternoons, sometimes late mornings, and throughout the day they'll visit these dusting areas there. So
another thing that I think is a little bit intimidating is that once you bag a turkey, then what on earth do you do with it? You know, how do you harvest the meat out of it, and how do you get it prepared so that or mounted or everything? It seems like a lot of work. So how does that work, Steve?
Well, that is one of the things that we did with our Learn to Hunt program, was we were able to bring in a butcher to show us how they clean a turkey, how they process a turkey. We brought this guy in. We just in case we didn't get a turkey during the Learn to Hunt program, we had him bring in some domestic turkeys that we could process and show each individual, the mentees, how to process that bird. And we showed them not only how to breast them out, but also take the legs and thighs. And we provided them with some great recipes for them to cook those up and utilize all the meat on the turkeys. We also showed them some different methods of utilizing even the feathers. Mm-hmm. You know, you could take the wing feathers and make fletching for your arrows. You know, you can take some of the feathers off the bodies and tie flies for going fishing. There's a lot of different uses there. We also showed a lot of the individuals how to make a turkey call out of the wing bones. So you glue the wing bones together and you kiss into it, and it makes the sound of a hen turkey. I don't have one with me here to show you,
Now
But it's
there's
great.
a turkey call that you had on your shelf this one Christmas that I tried out with some mixed results.
Yeah, that was kind of a joke that we kind of played on a lot of people there. I was down in Indiana one time, and they had, and see, you have locator calls when you're locating turkeys and stuff like that. A lot of times, we heard one call on here just a few minutes ago, but you have a crow call to locate a turkey. And you also have an owl hooter, and I use my natural voice. I go, and you make a call, and it's a natural sound that's in the woods that makes turkeys gobble in the spring of the year, but it doesn't call them to you. So they're giving away their location, and they're coming up. Well, we had this call that was sitting out there, and it's kind of an antique-looking call, and it looked down there, and it
There's all
says
sorts of pipes coming out of it.
all sorts of pipes and things like that, and there's little things where you blow into, and it looks like you can play it like a flute there, and it says owl hooter from Coffeyville, Alabama, and this is a really neat antique call. And
So I was in Steve's office, and I picked this thing off, and I said, I wonder how this thing works. And so I blow in the thing, and I get a face full of talcum powder.
that's right. It was kind of a joke that they played on it.
And I walk into the living room with my face all white, and with my glasses all covered up, and the two holes where my eyes are. And
Well, I knew exactly what had happened. That was not a fun time for Doug at that time. He says, "I've been had."
I knew the joke was on me. I laughed along with everybody else. But
Those are the best ones, the ones that are unsuspecting. They don't know what's going on there. That same thing happened to me down in Indiana. I had a friend of mine, a regional biologist, Randy Showalter, that sat down, and he had one of these things sitting on the table. Well, they had all sorts of different calls out there, and and a lot of them were antique calls, and well, they set me up big time. Being the old professional turkey hunter that I am, they kind of called me in there, and they said, you know anything about antique turkey calls? And I said, well, I know a little bit there. And he says, you ever heard of this one, owl hooter there? And of course I said, I didn't want to let him down that I didn't know, and stuff. Of course I said, Joe, I know all about that. He says, well, how do you work that thing? I never been able to make it work, I says, well, the part of these owl hooters, these reed type owl hooters, is that you got to blow really, really hard into them. Well, of course, I reached down there, I grabbed that call, and I pulled up, and poof, and it had talcum powder all over, and we laughed for not only hours, but for days over that deal there. I had white face. I was taken in hook, line, and sinker on that whole deal. But I tell you, turkey hunting is a great sport, a great hunt to be out there. There's a lot of times that you can get out in the woods with your family and friends, and the camaraderie that you have. And this is a special time for me because, for years we haven't really bonded very much together. I mean, we kind of separated, and even though Doug worked for the IT department and the DNR, and I worked out in the field as a field rep, a regional director for the National Wild Turkey Federation, kind of in the both same industry, but different parts of the industry. And having this special time with my brother was pretty meaningful for me, just to be able to get out here and enjoy wildlife at its best. And we was able to call in a turkey the other morning, got a bird come in, and we had a friend of ours that was a part of the Learn to Hunt program. We set it up in sets of 3. We was calling. Actually, Doug won the coin flip, and we was calling one bird as he's calling down in this meadow down there and coming in closer. Well, a bird gobbled up here in the tree close to us, and he flew out behind. Well, that turkey had no idea that we had a guy sitting on that side of the tree waiting for him to come in, and Tim was able to see the whole show, brought the turkey right in close, and he harvested that bird at 25 yards and did a great job of it. We were able to experience the whole thing.
Yep, so we'll get out from behind the computer and the cell phone, get out in the woods and enjoy what God created in nature, and there's a lot of fun that's involved in turkey hunting that I can see. So I can't promise Steve that I'm going to do it all the time, but I'm probably going to do it again. So I hope you enjoyed this time with Steve and me about turkey hunting. I hope you try it yourself.
Yeah, if you ever have any people out there that is interested in taking up hunting but don't know how, don't have the resources or the support system, go to the website learntohunt.com. You can go to that in Michigan Learn to Hunt programs. You can go to the National Wild Turkey Federation site, which is nwtf.org, or you can go to the Michigan NWTF site. It'd be mi-nwtf.org. It's a great organization, and if it wasn't for conservation, and if it wasn't for shooting and hunting, I mean, it all goes hand in hand. If you don't have shooting, you don't have hunting. If you don't have hunting, you don't have conservation. If you don't have conservation, you don't have wildlife. So it's a matter of, we got about 12 years before things really change, where if it continues on the way it is now, we may lose our hunting rights, we may lose hunting altogether, and it means it's not good for wildlife in general, because it's the hunters that actually pays for wildlife conservation. So we need more and more hunters out in the woods. So anybody has the interest in coming into it, that's a way to contact us and get involved.
Right. No, but like that's how big it could get.
Big it is.
Right. Come over this way, Brandon. Lean up against the shot. So you want your breast and stuff in there? We just gotta pick some good feathers off there. And, some shot in there. A little bit. That's good shot though. How far away was it? About as far away from the camera to the fire. Oh, nice.
Take
Yeah, that just came out.
The two
gals that laugh.
Number 6 shot is smaller in diameter. Yeah.
Yes, there's 600 of those. So when you shot your target and all those little holes all around the turkey, that's what it is. And so this is, there's more shots. So it's a weight kind of thing. So there's fewer number 4 pellets in a shell than there are number 6s. So it's more. It's almost usually about 100 to 200. So
Anybody else?
and all you need are 6 of these.
Well, it's almost rolling, isn't it?
Do you do deer then too?
We do deer at our house, yeah. Yep.
How do you,
Not
have
at the
you
store.
ever defleshed like the skull?
We do skin some skulls and then boil them for ourselves.
And that's the difference between
There's
cylinder.
it's just easier to pay somebody to do it, I think.
Oh, I just usually throw them down next to the pole barn.
Oh yeah, let them.
But I found a whole deer carcass out in the back that someone didn't find after they shot it.
Right.
Yeah. And I yanked the skull off it, and it still has some. It looks like it's got a toupee on it.
Oh, nice.
And I'm giving it to my niece's biology teacher for a display they're doing at school. And I thought, how am I going to get the rest of this flesh off?
Right.
I don't want to bring it in the house, you know.
Okay, I guess this next one here we're gonna just show you a different way, kind of more like a whole turkey that you'd buy in a grocery store or something. So I have this pot of boiling water, and I think they recommend dipping them like three or 4 times.
Keeping everything. did the temperature of the water have to be to do a good scalding? Did you say that already?
I did not. You know that better than I'm not 100% sure. This is it. But the ones that we just normally breast them out. And
Typically, you can bring it up to about 350 degrees when you're doing like a whole fried turkey.
okay.
It's about 350 degrees the oil temperature, and then it's typically 3 minutes per pound.
Oh no, we're talking about
But
scalding
he's
it
talking
first.
about-
But yeah, when you scald it, you probably bring that up to 350.
Oh, okay.
In the and they just fall. The feathers just fall right out.
It's amazing how
Yeah.
what he's
So
doing.
much easier than plucking it without.
Yeah.
It opens the pores in the breast,
Yeah.
the part of the breast that holds the feathers. And you
Yeah,
just-
that's how it'd be in the grocery store. Exactly. Yep. And it wouldn't hurt. You know, after you pluck it a minute, just kind of do another one. I don't want to mess with these wings, but
Are they not doing anything for crop then?
we'll gut it.
Okay.
Yeah, and get it all out of there.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I was like.
So this is a turkey wing. It's just too much to mess with. We're not really out a ton of meat there. But if we were hungry, we'd definitely. You guys, anybody ever heard of Tom Otto's Turkey Farm? Like Otto's Turkey?
Yep.
Yeah, that's where these are from. They're really
Oh, are they really?
sought
Right up
after
the road,
birds.
Yeah, right between here and Middleville.
Yeah, we sell Otto's turkeys at our meat market. Obviously, they come in a package, not quite like this form, but I think we charge $3 a pound. That's crazy for a turkey. When people buy them.
What's so great about them?
I think it's just local, and I think it's like no hormones, no antibiotics, just kind of an all-natural kind of thing. Yeah, they're not in a little pen.
But
Yep.
a turkey that you would just go like a butterball that you go into the store and buy. How much is that?
You can get them for 99 cents a
Yeah.
pound. Yeah, people
Yeah.
want grocery stores. They want you to come in and buy the stuffing and all that other stuff with it that they're making money on. So I'll just go ahead and dip it again. And again, this is just kind of a rough job. If someone had all day to do it, they could just keep on picking and picking and
The
picking.
ones, free
How did they
range
do it commercially? Do they?
So they a lot of them actually these turkeys here I showed up with my steel and I was just gonna knock them in the head, and they actually gas them. It's weird. They have like these little boxes and they lock like 15 of them in at a time, and then they shut the door and then they gas them and they fall out and they're just like unconscious, and you just hung them up on a little it almost looks like a coat hanger kind of thing that has room that goes right here. It kind of holds them up, and they just got a production line. And
See there, I thought it was tryptophan that put me to sleep after
right,
Thanksgiving.
yeah, it's just like gas. Yes, this is going to be pretty clean.
Oh, you win the Pulitzer Prize.
So yeah, like I said, you could pick and pick all day and get every little tiny feather off. And so there's your neck you were talking about. So it wouldn't have the skin on it a lot of times when you get a giblets and stuff like that inside the turkey. So let me kind of wipe this off here a little bit, and then I'll start kind of gutting it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
How does the goose look like?
We'll get a look at them in a second. Okay, so we're gonna gut this bird. I'll cut the feet off at first. No spurs. I think the guy said this bird's only like 6 weeks old or something like that. So here was I'd say the anus here. I'd make like a little slit. Kind of right, and I just reach my hand right in there as far as you can. And just kind of pull them out.
Yeah. Well, that great big thing is the gizzard.
Like I said, you guys would know what's that exactly used for. What does turkeys do with that?
grind up their food.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So all the food goes into the crop, stores it like a storage place, and then the gizzard, they eat gravel, and that goes down into the gizzard, and then they
go back around here. This one.
that's why it's so big. It's all muscle, and the gravel and the muscles in the gizzard grind the food up. So the gizzard is like our teeth to masticate food, and then the rest of the body processes just like we do.
Yeah. Anybody want to see? This is a turkey heart, and probably on that bird there, that's probably a year-old bird or 2-year-old bird, right? Yeah, last year's. Anybody want to look at
the
that?
heart.
You wash your hands when you're done. Pass it around, yeah.
Is that the heart?
Yep, that is the heart. Come around this way, buddy. Yep, this is the liver. Come around here. Don't step on that. Go back over there.
Dare you to eat it.
Yeah, they're gonna. Jen, you have to Snapchat that. Yeah.
I guess that's about all I have. Anybody got any questions or anything? Or you can eat it. I don't want it. No. No. Make sure you guys wash your hands before you eat potato chips or something like that. I can take it back.
Oh, it's fairly sterile.
Yeah. I guess
This one would be bigger.
I would say, yeah, this heart would be just a tiny bit bigger, probably. Yeah.
I mean, give you some ideas of some different types of recipes that you can do with this. A lot of people just breast out the turkeys, the wild turkeys, and they said, oh, these legs and thighs are way too tough, and they don't cook up very good. Well, I tell you what I do with the legs and thighs. First off, I'll take this thigh right here, and I'll cut it off, and I'll keep the drumsticks separate. And then the thigh, I cut the meat off the bone and grind it up into a burger. And then after that, I take a little Worcestershire sauce, put it in with that burger, mix it up real good, wrap it in bacon, make a patty, and throw it on the grill. And hello, that is some good stuff right there. Another thing that you can do with the drumsticks, we had drumstick soup today. We just put it in a crock pot and just let the meat fall off the bone.
It's pretty much the same.
There's a lot of tendons in this leg right here.
Yeah, a lot bigger.
And if you just try to chew it off the bone like you typically do with a chicken leg, it's not going to work very well. But you put it in a crock pot until the meat is starting to fall off the bone. Take a little tweezers or something like that, grab a hold of the tendons, and it just pulls right out, and it just comes out clean. And then the rest of them, you can strip the meat off there, put that into soup mixings, and we had that here this afternoon. Something else, what I'm going to do this evening after the hunt, I'm going to do a little stir fry. We're going to do it on the fire there. I'm going to cut it up into some turkey strips from a turkey that we shot this year, and little fingers, cut it up in little fingers with the breast. And I take some teriyaki. If you like teriyaki, put it in there. And I take a yellow pepper, green pepper, red pepper, and cut them up into little strips. And then I take an onion and I'll put it in a wok, which with the little holes on it. Put it on the tripod, let it sit down in the coals, and I put the onion and the turkey in first, and put olive oil on it, and just let that cook and saute it in that onion, about to where that onion is getting really soft. And then I take the peppers, put that in there, some mushrooms, cashews, and throw that in there, some pea pods, and mix that all up after that meat is cooked and browned and good, and pour some teriyaki on that too. And we serve it over rice, and
it's pretty hot.
That's some good stuff. Another one of my favorite recipes, this is one of Al's favorites, is I take them turkey breasts and cut it into fingers once again, and I take a clove of garlic, slice it real thin, put it in a frying pan with some butter, Let that garlic kind of saute that garlic. Throw the turkey breast in there. Brown it real quick on a high heat, just so it's kind of brown. And then I pour about a 1/4 cup of honey over it. Put the cashews in, and put some of the craisins, like you get in the store, the dried cranberries. Put those in there. It's like our Thanksgiving dinner all in one, and serve that over rice. And there's some good food right there. So there's a lot of people that will throw away a lot of the meat that is extremely good. You know, so those are some recipes that may help you out, you know, in the future when you do get your turkey. And it's a good time. And there, too many people just throw away a lot of that stuff. But another thing too, they do the whole fried turkey, where they take the turkey just like this here, and that's plucked or whatever, and you get the peanut oil, works the best. You bring that up to about 350 degrees. Actually, I bring it about to 375. And one thing, you don't want to overfill the pot. You take a pot like this here, get that up to 375 degrees, but you only fill it up about that far, because when you put it in there, the turkey overflows. And too many people put too much oil in there and it overflows over the top, hits that flame, and you got a big flame of fire on your hands there, so you got to be careful of that. But 375 degrees, because that temperature goes down quite a bit once you dip the turkey in there. It's 3 minutes per pound, and bring that out. And that whole fried turkey, it's the crisp on the outside, real moist on the inside, and there's some good. Another thing, I inject the turkey with butter and garlic butter. You know, so you just kind of inject the turkey with garlic butter, or Italian dressing if you like that. That works good too. You inject it, but those are a lot of different recipes that you can use, and I don't even charge for those recipes at all. So, yeah.
I make fajitas out of mine. I'll strip them like Steve does, throw it in with some olive oil. Just before it completely cooks through, it's still a little pink on the inside, I turn it off, throw a couple packs of taco seasoning in it, buy some soft shell burritos, whatever you want, sour cream, cheese, whatever. Roll them up and make burritos out of them.
I think one of the best recipes I heard is they had those cedar planks, and you put them on the plank and bake them for like 350 for an hour and a half, and then you throw the turkey away and then you eat the plank. Just kidding.
That's carp.
Hey, Daddy.
And
Daddy.
Al is going to show you how to make an actual wing bone call that the Native Americans used to call in turkeys with. So I'm going to have Al show them that.
But first, can we give Jimmy a round of applause?
Oh,
For the
yeah.
time off from a wedding he has to go to today to come show you how to do turkey.
Thank you for your Brandon. It's pretty funny. Brandon, he cuts stew meat and everything at the store. He's good. Can we do this over here, buddy?
Well, yeah, that's good. Okay, so this is
Dad, what is inside?
Oh, yeah, that would be
one of the coolest things is, so here's the wing of the turkey, and you can use the bones from your wing to make a turkey claw. And so this was one of the first things that was Native Americans used for their turkey calls. So when you remove all the feathers and the meat off of it, you end up with the humerus and the radius and the ulna. And by coincidence, when you cut them apart, they all fit inside each other. And you end up with a wing bone like this right here. And this makes all the sounds of wild turkey. So you can this will really make turkeys gobble, and you can call them right in. So there's really nothing more rewarding than to be able to shoot a turkey like we did here, take the bones from that bird, and then create your own call, and then be able to call birds in the future with the parts of a bird that you've already shot. So And then the other fun part of it is, the smaller bone is the one that really is the sounding part for the trumpet. And you just cut them off where you can see these black marks. And then you can put them together like this, or you can add like a piece of wood to it, and so you can cluck and yelp and call birds in with a call like that. Another thing I like to do is take that same small wing bone part, then take the shell that I shot the bird with, pop the primer out. Then you can write on the outside of your shell that I shot this, 29-pound bird with a, 15-inch beard on May 1st or whatever. So, and in order for you to have the opportunity to learn how to do it, you can take like a little swizzle stick, or if you happen to frequent a bar and you're talking with people who have never ever heard of turkeys or turkey calling, you can reach into their drink, pull out their swizzle stick and say, so I was calling like this and this bird came in, and they say, well, what's a turkey sound like? So you can go, and that's how it went, bang. So that's what they experienced this morning, and let you all have a chance at making your own wing bone call. I brought along some of these, and you can all kind of give it a try and learn how to use a wing bone call. So.
I don't know what he was doing. What noise he made?
You kiss it. Yeah.
You're sucking in?
You're sucking in, you're kissing it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, once everybody has it, we'll get you going.
It's a swap. Ooh! Get that little squeeze.
There you go.